Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Till now, we have seen how functions are represented by maps and equations. Now, we are going to explore them in tables and graphs. We are going to see how these groups, which are related by some rule, how can we interpret them in graphs and tables. All right, you see here we have represented the inputs as x and the outputs as f of x. As you remember, this is the notation that we are going to use. Now, if you see here, for this particular function, we have the input as x and the output is has a rule which is x plus 4. That means every time any input that you put here, it adds 4 to it and the output you will get just by adding 4. For example, you see here we have minus 2 as our input. So minus 2 plus 4 is plus 2. If you take 0, it's 0 plus 4 is 0, 4. So now they have a question over here. They're asking select the table that corresponds to f of x, which is equals to this. So I can see that if this table, the first one here, matches exactly as the mapping that we have here. Now, how the each of these functions are mapped, and the table 2 is different, right? X is not my inputs over here. Basically, the outputs are written in the second column. You can see the inputs are mentioned in the second table. I'm really sorry for that sound of the train. Now here, the first one matches with it. So with this, so that's how you can write a function or this mapping in the form of a table. Let's continue. Now, if you see here, so it says that we can represent functions with tables that have inputs on the left, which we generally take it as x, and the output on the right, which we are calling it f of x. Now here we have another question. Now it is asking us to select the table that corresponds to this function x square minus 1. So if you put any input over here and then simplify this, um, what should be the output? So we have to select the table which matches with this function. So if we check for the first one here, the input, if I put minus 1 square is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. So yeah, this first row matches. If we put 0, then it's minus 1. If we put 1, it's 0. If we put 2, so 4. 2 square is 4, minus 1 is 3. So I can see the first one matches. And it says select the table, so I'm considering that there is just one option correct over here. I'll go ahead and check if this is correct. That's correct. So let's move on. Now, here it says what might indicate that the values in the table do not represent a map, that is a function. So if you recall, we have already discussed that we cannot have multiple outputs for a single input. So if we have repeated outputs, um, oh, sorry, we can have repeated outputs, but we cannot have repeated input values. Like one, if you put one, you cannot get three and four. So it'll be value can repeat. A table is only a function when there is one possible outcome for any given input. So this is a function because for all these inputs, the outputs are different. Whereas this is not a function because we have repeated inputs over here and we're getting two different outputs. So that's how we can see that in a table. Now, it says that if x values repeat and are assigned to different um, f of x, then the table does not represent a function. Now here they are asking us to tell us which. So here you see the inputs are repeating. Here the outputs are repeating. Here the inputs are repeating. Here. So here it says select the table. So there could be more than one. I can see that we have more than one over here. So yeah, and these ones are not because here we have just the outputs are repeating, not the inputs. And here the inputs are repeating. So this is I think this can also be a function because here the outputs are repeating, not the inputs. So yeah, that's how we identify. Let's just check. Okay, so the first one is not okay. Yeah, because they have inputs which are repeating, so it's not. These